Hey guys, Jeff here from JMAG's Kitchen, and thank you for joining us for our first episode. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do a play on surf and turf. We're going to make a rolled potato gratin. We're going to do New York strip steak with shrimp. So let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to wash and rinse potatoes, and I've already got most of mine cut, but we're going to use a mandolin today just because it's easier and it keeps your cuts nice and clean. But if you want to, you can definitely do it by hand with your knife. I like to use the Pampered Chef mandolin because it's the easiest to use. You just take your potato, and put it in a tray. There's going to be a slot on both sides that the handguard slides into, and you'll hear it click when it goes in. And you just put it on and slice. And then after you get all your potatoes cut, now I used about 4 or 5 Yukon Gold potatoes in order to get the roll that we need to use. You're going to take them and you're going to put them into a bowl of cold water. This way, as you're setting everything else up, it's not going to oxidize. So now the next step, after you have your potatoes in cold water, we are going to take a sheet tray and we are going to line the sheet tray with parchment paper. And by the way, that beep that you heard was the oven coming up to temperature, because you do want to set your oven to 425 degrees. We line the sheet tray with parchment paper, and then you want to use either cooking spray or you want to use butter, so that when you put the potatoes and the cheese down, it's not going to stick as you cook. So you're going to put a nice liberal coating on here. Next, you're going to grab some cheese. And today I am using Kobe Jack, and I am using mozzarella that I had grated up from another party. You're going to take the cheese and you're going to just lightly sprinkle on the sheet pan. You don't want a big layer because we're going to do 2 different types of cheeses. And the cheese layer is going to help the potatoes stick when we do the first cook. So that when we take them out of the oven and we're ready to roll it, the cheese is going to hold everything together so the potatoes don't fall apart. You just want to make sure you've got a nice even coating over the entire bottom of the sheet pan. Next, you're going to take your potatoes, drain the water, and you're going to take your potatoes and you're going to layer them so that they are overlapping each other. And you want to try and use potatoes that are just about the same size so that everything comes out even. And you're going to do this down the entire sheet pan. And when you go into your second layer, you want to make sure that you've got about an inch, half an inch to an inch over that next row of potatoes. So this way, again, as you start to roll it, it's going to allow you to have full coverage of everything and not break when you roll it. And we're just going to go right down the pan. Just like so. Now this is something that I saw off a YouTube video, and it looked really good. So this is the first time I'm making it, and I was excited because it really did look good. And you know, you can stuff this pretty much with anything that you want. You can put meat and cheese in here. You can do just the meat. Today we're going to put some cheese and mushrooms and onions in here to go with the steakhouse theme for the surf and turf. So now that you get down to the end, you got nice layers here. You're going to take your cheese again. Oh, I almost forgot. Worst thing about undercooked potatoes is underseasoned potatoes. So what we've done is we've taken a spice rub, and this is 2 tablespoons of salt, a tablespoon of smoked paprika, a tablespoon of granulated onion, half a tablespoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of pepper, and an eighth of a teaspoon of chipotle seasoning. Now you can use cayenne if you like, but I am a fan of chipotle. Now this does seem like a lot of rub, but keep in mind that we're going to be using this for the potatoes, the shrimp, and for seasoning the steak. So this is my all-around rub that I use pretty much for everything. I call this my all-purpose rub. So you just put it on the plate, shake it all together, use your hands, get in there, make sure that it's nice and incorporated, and then kind of scoop it over into a pile, and then just use your fingers and liberally season the potatoes. And this is going to give your potatoes flavor as they cook. And then, like I said, in a 420, you want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. And then we're going to cook this for roughly half hour, 45 minutes, until the potatoes start to become soft and pliable. That's going to give us the ability to roll it. So now that they're seasoned, we're going to do another layer of cheese. This is going to, again, help with potatoes so that they don't come apart as we start to roll. Look at that. You can never have a complaint when you're putting cheese on potatoes. And if you really wanted to jazz this up too, you can do up some bacon, or you can do some pancetta, you know, or something to do a little bit more flavor. Anything that you have on hand in the pantry, it'll work. Now we're going to do some more of the mozzarella. Again, not too heavy, just kind of here and there. Nice thin layer. And now we're going to take this and we're going to pop this into a 425 degree oven, and this is going to bake for about a half hour, 45 minutes. So, our next step, we're going to get our green beans ready, because you got to have side dishes with your steak and your potatoes. So we're going to take our cutting board, and remember that anytime that you set up a cutting board, you want to put either a damp cloth or a damp towel underneath it, so that as you're cutting, you're not going to slide around and prevent you from cutting yourself. So I'm just going to take a couple of for some napkins. We're going to get them wet. And you probably don't want to get them wet over the cutting board, because then you get your cutting board wet, but that's okay, because all we're doing is trimming down green beans. And we're going to lay these out. And now when you put your cutting board down, you can see that, you know, it doesn't twist or move, and it's going to give you a nice solid cutting surface. So next we're going to take our knife. Now with the green beans, I washed them and I kind of separated the good ones from the ones that were looking a little rough. I've had these in the house for about a week, so they're still good. but we definitely want to get them used up. So as far as the green beans go, just kind of put them in a pile, and we're going to take our knife, square them off, turn them around. You know, this way it just gets all those loose ends and tips and everything off. You're getting rid of all the ends and the tips and the stuff that you don't want to eat, and you're left with some beautifully cut green beans ready to be blanched. So we're going to put these in a pan. Actually, we're going to put these on a plate right now so that we can finish prepping the rest of the beans. And also, one of the things that I forgot to mention too, that before you start, grab yourself a large bowl and put it in the sink. So then this way, as you're cutting and chopping and removing stuff, you have a garbage bowl that you can just throw everything into the sink. And then that way, when you're all done cooking and prepping, you can just take the bowl over to the garbage can and dump it out. Green beans have always been my favorite. Just with the color and the length, and you can do so much with them. Today what we're going to do is we're going to quickly blanch them in some hot water, and then we're going to do a balsamic reduction to plate over them, because we know that with the steak and with the potatoes, steak and potatoes is going to be really heavy, so we need something to counterbalance to give a little bit of relief from all that heaviness. So this is a good way to do that. Along with it too, we're going to do the onions and the mushrooms. We're going to saute off the mushrooms and onions, and then we're going to put them in that gratin and roll it up and put it back in the oven to finish baking so that everything is nice and soft. And then this way we'll be ready for dinner. We want to make sure that everything is perfect for when our guests come around. And this is the last bunch of our green beans. And finish tipping. Now, if you wanted to, because I do realize that some of these are longer and shorter than others, if you want to, you can just snap off the ends or cut them one at a time. I know I'm kind of doing this in a hurry, but everything helps. And now we have the potatoes in the oven and we have the green beans done. So our next step is going to be to season the meat. Now what you want to do with the seasoning of the meat is we're going to open the package and use the same spice rub, and we're just going to season it liberally. So we're going to change our cutting board, because you never want to use the same cutting board as on veggies as you do on meat. And we're just going to take these strip steaks, and before you cook them, you want to take them out of the oven or out of the refrigerator about an hour before you cook them, maybe 2 hours, because you want the steaks to come to room temperature before you cook. That way when you do put them in the skillet, they are going to cook evenly for you, and you're not going to have any cold spots. And again, we're going to take our rub that we made, put it again into a pile, and then we're going to season our steaks. You don't want to go super heavy, because this first season is just going to give the steaks a chance to absorb the flavor, because we're going to let the steak sit and rest for about 20 minutes so that all the flavors and all the spices can absorb in before we put them on the fire. And we've got with those seasoned. Let me go grab another plate. Because we have 3 more steaks to do. Get the colander out of the way. And we're going to do the second set of steaks. The other reason why you want to do this too is that when you take the steaks out, you can see that they're still a little moist. You can pat them down with a paper towel, because you definitely don't want to cook steaks when they're wet, because they won't brown. They're more steam than anything else. But that's what I like with the seasoning too, is that when you put the seasoning on, it helps dry it out, and as the steaks start to dry out, and the salt in the rub is going to help pull out some of the water that's in there, and as they start to dry out, it's going to pull the seasoning back in. And then this way you've got a well-seasoned steak that is not going to have any cold spots or have any anything that's crazy or out of place. Alright, so our steaks are seasoned. We're going to sit these off to the side to rest, and we are going to move on to getting the shrimp ready. Now with the shrimp, we're going to wash our hands up here. We're going to move this cutting board out the way. Now with the shrimp, again, all we're going to do is season the shrimp so that we can get it ready for grilling, because the shrimp is going to be the last thing that's going to go on, because it's going to take the shortest time to cook. But we still need to prep it to get it seasoned. So what I did, I do not like the pre-cooked shrimp that they have in the store, because it's pre-cooked and you can't do anything with it. And if you try to put it in the oven or finish it off, it tends to overcook and gets rubbery. So I like to go and I buy the shrimp that is deveined and easy peel. Easy peel shrimp is extremely easy to do. They just come in bags like this, and they've already got the back slit for you. So all it is you basically open it up, it pulls back from the feet, you squeeze the tail, and it pops right out. That way you've got some beautiful raw shrimp that you can do anything with, from deep fry to saute. You can bake them in the oven, pretty much anything. The sky's the limit as to what you can do. But I like the easy peelers because they peel extremely easy and there's no fuss, no muss. Now the other thing that you do have to do, because even though that they are deveined, you do want to look at them as you are peeling them to make sure that they did get all the vein lines out. And that's just because nobody likes to eat the vein lines, because we know that that's really the digestive tract of the shrimp. And you can see right here that it wasn't fully, that they missed a spot. So you just take some cold water and you run it under the cold water just to make sure that you've got it fully cleaned out. And that is the easiest way to do the shrimp so that it's nice and clean. And then you can see, I know that I did a few there, but you can see here, I've been working on it, and I've got a nice stack of shrimp that is ready to be seasoned and sauteed. So, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to do a little bit of cleanup here just to give ourselves some room. So we're going to take the shrimp, we're going to clean up our workstation over here, scoop it in, and that's the nice thing with the bowl, is you can kind of just put everything right in the bowl. Now our next step is going to be to season the shrimp and get it ready for going on the being sauteed. So we're going to not really throw it in a marinade, but we're just going to throw some of that dry rub that we have on it and get it seasoning so we've got some flavor built in there. So for that, we're going to grab ourselves a medium bowl, decent size, about that big. Just big enough so that you can, you want it big enough where it's going to hold all the shrimp. And you also want it big enough so that when you season the shrimp that you've got some room to work and everything. By the way, good tip, I usually keep a towel on my shoulder so that way when you're cooking, you know, it does tend to get hot. It gives you a chance to wipe your brow and also keep your hands clean and everything. So, again, using the last of our seasoning, we're going to liberally dust the shrimp. Now my rule is I always season twice when I go into a pan like that, because after you season it and you toss it, some of the seasoning is going to stick to your hands and some of the seasoning is also going to stick to the bowl. So it doesn't always get on the shrimp the way that we like it. So after I toss it the first time and make sure that I've got it where I like it, definitely clean and dry your hands. And then we're going to season it a second time. This way we can ensure that everything is well seasoned and well coated. I'll toss it a second time. And also another good tip, make sure that when you're doing this with your shrimp, that your shrimp is thawed out and dry. So then that way when you're tossing it into the spice rub, you're not losing anything, because as it melts or as it defrosts, the water will wash off and then you'll probably have to toss again before you go into the pan. So, we've got the potatoes in the oven. We have the steak and shrimp seasoned up. The next thing we need to do is we need to cut our onions and get them ready for the roll. So, we're going to grab our cutting board that we used for the green beans. I'm going to toss this. And again, we're going to take some paper towel and put it under the cutting board so we don't have any slippage. We're going to put our garbage bowl back. We're going to need that. Now, as far as slicing the onions, what you want to do, you have the root end and then you have the normal end. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure you clean off your knife too. Still had green beans on there. So the next thing we want to do is, again, you've got your root end and then you have your front end. So we're going to cut off the front end. And then we're going to turn it sideways, and through the middle of the root, we're going to cut it in half. This way, when you go to peel the paper off, you can just grab it in the corner, and it all comes off extremely easy. And we're going to do the same for the other one. This is going to peel off. You just grab that first layer to get it going, and you just start in the corner and work your way back. And there you go. And you can notice too that with the root end kind of holds everything together for when you start to slice. Now, I prefer a little bit thicker cut onion. I don't like the dices when I do the mushrooms and onions. So we're going to do half rings. So when you're holding your knife, you're going to take your 2 fingers here and they go underneath, and then you're going to take your forefinger and your thumb and you're going to pinch them together, and then your pinky wraps around and you're going to do like a claw grip. This gives you nice control, and it gives you the ability to keep everything under control when you're slicing and cutting. Now when you are slicing and cutting, you don't want to go in one direction because the knife is designed to go in 2 directions. So when you're doing this, you're going to put the knife on the onion and you're going to apply some pressure and you're going to push down and go forward. Let the knife do the cutting, and you can see you get some nice even rings. The other thing that you want to do when you are cutting an onion is you want to take your fingers and you want to curl them up, and I usually pull all of my fingers back except for my middle finger here, and you can see that the knuckle is sticking out, and that's my guide. I'll take my pinky and my thumb and they go behind here, they go behind what you're cutting, and that's going to give you a nice stable surface as you're cutting. And then you can use your pinky, or you use your middle finger, you use that knuckle as your guide. So we want nice thin slices, but not too thin. So again, we're going to put the knife on the onion and we're going to apply pressure going down and go forward, and then pull back, and that gives you your slice. And that is a pretty good slice there. So then you're going to slide back and slide back and slide back, and you're going to take this all the way down to the root. And as you start to hit that curve, you stop, because that way it keeps your onions together, and now you have nice, beautiful onion that we can use for our dish. So we're going to grab another plate. We're going to put the onion on here to make room for the other one that we need to cut. Now this here is still good, so if you wanted to, you can take this and put it into little slices and then turn it. And then this way you're not wasting any of the onion. You brought it down to here, and then these here you can, make fine. Kind of chop them up. Put these in a little baggie, and you've got onions now that you can put in on top of hot dogs, or you can put them in a sandwich. You can even saute them in a different recipe that you're using. But then this way you're not wasting any of your product. So we're going to take our second onion and we're going to do the same thing like we did. The 2 fingers, the wrap around for the pinch, and then that way you're stable. And then 2 fingers back here, the middle finger out front, rock forward so that the knuckle is sticking out there, and then that way you use it as your guide, so that as you're slicing your onions, forward and down, and that gives us the rest of the onions that we need. Everything is all uniform and beautiful. And then again, we can turn it down, run it forward, clean up that root. That way you're not wasting any of your product. Right, so we've got a pot of water on the stove, and we've got a skillet that's going to heat up so that we can start doing the mushrooms and onions. And as you can see over here, we have taken the potato gratin out of the oven. It's absolutely beautiful, golden brown. Almost looks like a pizza crust, which is exactly what we're looking for. So our next step is we're going to take our onions, which we've beautifully cut up, and we're going to add a tablespoon of butter to the pan, and we're going to start to saute them. The pan nice and hot. You can hear it sizzle beautifully, and we're going to melt the butter. Real butter. Nothing like a little bit of flame when you're cooking. And now we're going to take the onions and right in. Now it looks like a lot of onions, but these onions will definitely cook down. We're going to take our and kind of break these up so that they're individuals. Just like so. Make sure that everything is well separated. We're going to take it and we're going to toss. Make everything sure that everything is well coated. Now again, keeping with our steakhouse theme, we are going to grab our rub that we made earlier, and we're going to continue to reinforce the flavor of the steak and the shrimp. Just like so. And again, we're going to give that another good toss to make sure everything is well mixed up. And then we're going to continue to cook this down until it's nice and golden brown. Alright, you can see that the onions are coming down nicely. They're turning nice golden brown. They still have a few minutes to go. And we've got our water up to a boil. So we're going to take our green beans and we're going to put them in the water. And we're going to cook these probably 1 to 2 minutes, just so that we get the nice green color. And then once these are done cooking, we're going to, these are going to cook 2, maybe 3 minutes. And then once these are done cooking, we are going to move them to a bowl with ice water in it to stop the cooking. This way it will keep its nice green flavor or its nice green appearance and crispy texture for when we go into ready for final service. So you can see the onions have turned now a nice golden brown, and they are ready to be used as stuffing. So we're going to turn the heat off, take it off the heat. And we can also see that our green beans have been cooking for about 3 minutes now. And you know that they're done when they've got the nice bright color, and when you take one out and bite into it, it's soft, but it still has the snap to it. So we're going to take these and we're going to get them into an ice bath to stop the cooking time. To use our Chinese strainer, and we're going to evacuate the beans from the hot water and get them into the ice bath to stop the cooking. And like we said before too, the ice bath is going to help keep the beans color for when we're ready to plate. Now the next thing that we're going to do is get the mushrooms going. So we've removed the onions from the heat and put it on a plate. And then we're going to take our mushrooms. And I've taken the mushrooms, I opened them from the package, and I just washed them under the water, put them into a bowl to wash off all of the dirt or anything that was getting in there. And yes, it is a wives' tale that if you put mushrooms in water that they absorb, because that's just not true. And if you don't believe me, weigh the package, put it in water, take it out of the water, weigh it again, and you'll find out that there's no change. So, in the same pan as what the onions were in, we threw in another glob of butter, and we are going to dump in the mushrooms. And just like the mushroom, or just like the onions, we are going to use our season mix that we made before, again to help keep everything tied all together. Because as you cook, you definitely want to make sure that everything is well seasoned so that you don't have anything that throws off the flavor. Beautiful. And then just like with the onions before, we're going to toss to combine. And we're going to give it one more light pinch. And toss one more time. And try not to throw them all over the floor. There we go. So we're going to cook these until they are golden brown and shrunk down. So now we've got the mushrooms finished, and you can see that they're nice and golden brown. So now we're going to put the roll together. So now we're going to make the roll. So we're basically going to take the onions, and we are going to do a thin layer of onions. You want to leave about a 1 inch so you've got a place to start to roll, and you're just going to spread it out in a nice even roll. And you're going to go all the way across the crust. Ooh, those onions are hot. Like so. You want to make sure it's just a nice even layer. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to take the mushrooms and you're going to do the same thing. Just a nice even layer all the way up and down your roll. And then once you have your mushrooms and onions in, you're going to start from the one corner, and you're just going to roll it over and roll it, and make sure that your ends are tucked in so that they don't fall out. And you're going to finish the roll. Once your roll is complete, you're going to grab a baking sheet. Again, lined with parchment paper. We're going to put the roll on the parchment paper. We're going to dust this with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Oh, it looks like I'm out of Parmesan cheese. When in doubt, use mozzarella. We're going to put some mozzarella then on it for the dusting, since my Parmesan seems to be gone. And we're going to put this in a 350-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, or until the cheese is melted. Now the roll is done and in the oven, so our next step is to make the steaks. As you remember, we seasoned those earlier, so they should be ready for the fire. We're going to use the same pan. We're going to put it on a nice high heat. We're going to throw some butter on there, and we're going to sear off the steak. And we just added the butter. We're going to add some extra virgin olive oil. This is going to help lower the burn point of the butter so it doesn't burn when we throw the steaks in there. And we're going to get the steaks in and get them to a nice medium rare. Got the first round of steaks down. We are going to get these nice and golden brown on both sides, and we're going to get these to about medium rare. To get medium rare, it should take about 2.5, maybe 3 minutes per side to get them nice and where we want them at. So we're going to let these cook. Cook for 2 minutes on this side. It's been about 2.5 minutes. So now we're going to flip them over and get the other side going. Look at how beautiful those look. Nothing better than a nice golden brown steak. So we're going to cook these again for about 2 to 2.5 minutes on this side to get them done. Now we've got the steaks all seared off and everything and looking absolutely beautiful. So the last thing we have to do before we put this all together is cook the shrimp. So we took this, the pan and again some olive oil and some butter, and we're just going to take the shrimp and saute this in till it's just turns pink. Alright, so we've got the shrimp cooked and ready to go. We have our roll ready to go. We have the green beans and we have the steak. So now it's time to put it all together. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to take our steak, and the steak is going to come in the middle of the plate. And then we're going to take our roll, and the roll is going to go a long ways across the steak. Then we're going to take a handful of green beans, and those are going to go one way on the steak. And then finally, we are going to take our shrimp and pile the shrimp on the other side of the roll. And since this is such a heavy dish and everything, we're going to give it a little bit of acidity with some balsamic vinegar to finish. And we're just going to take it and just right around the plate. And there you have it, a steakhouse dinner that didn't cost you a fortune. Thank you for joining me at J-Mac's Kitchen, and always remember, treat friends like family, and it's always okay to play with your food. Thank you and have a good night.